breaking barriers and bridging the gaps between patients and doctors. Welcome to Brainstorming with the Docs and your co-hosts, Dr. Glenn Harrison and Dr. Kolby Condos.
All right, everyone, welcome back to this week's episode of Brainstorming with the Docs. I'm Dr. Kolby Condos, my co-host, Dr. Glenn Harrison.
Hey,
how's
Dr.
it going, Bill?
Kolby? I'm good. I'm ready for this one.
Yeah, this is one that we cover very regularly in our offices, so we figured we would bring this information to all of you guys. Yeah. So today we are going to talk about probiotics, maybe what to look for if you're going to choose a probiotics, what they're doing, what's the point, what are some places that you get them.
Is there a point?
Maybe some places that you get them outside of supplements or where you get them in your food diet or routine or whatever. And we're going to cover all those today. If this is your first time listening or watching, please hit like and subscribe and turn on notifications, because we're going to continue to roll out new content each and every week. And you never know when we might cover something that's applicable to you. So what is the point, or what is the goal if a patient is taking probiotics?
Well, I guess the goal is I think we've been brainwashed with this, that we have to take probiotics because it has all these amazing outcomes, and it's like a miracle pill from the natural model, if we will. And there's so many digestive issues going on in the United States. I think the last statistic I read was like 70 or 75% of the American population were dealing with some form of digestive disorder. So there's a big need for some kind of digestive improvement. And probiotics, they're advertised like it's this miracle pill. It's just like the safest thing and the best thing and the most effective. So the goal really is to try to increase biodiversity, try to improve digestion, I guess, simplify.
Yeah, I think that you brought up a good point. I think that one of the biggest reasons that people have questions based on probiotics is that it's marketing.
Yeah.
And people, you see certain yogurt brands or whatever, this contains natural probiotics that will help you gently aid your digestion. Mm-hmm. Everyone's like, oh, like I have issues with my digestion.
Maybe I'm hungry and I have digestive problems.
Maybe I should eat this yogurt. So I do think that it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is genius marketing by certain companies, because now it's at the forefront of their mind. Oh, maybe I should be taking a probiotic. I think that when you look at probiotics and consider it just a digestive aid, that's really short-sighting what your microbiome actually does. So when we talk about your microbiome or your intestinal flora, what that is it's actually the biodiversity of bacteria in your gut. And what the bacteria in your gut help us do is it helps us with a variety of processes, including like digesting food, absorption of nutrients. It helps even with things like manufacturing neurotransmitters or certain hormones in some cases, production of energy. And it actually, through like a competitive process, helps you inhibit potential pathogens.
That's right.
Competitive inhibition. So it's not necessarily just like, oh, it's going to help you. It's not going to make
feels better. Yeah.
It's going to help your tummy and help you have more regular and consistent bowel movements. But that's really kind of just a piece of what probiotics can do as far as your the improvement of your microbiome. Yeah,
I think probiotics. The concept of probiotics as a solution or a cure is oversimplification of digestive problems. That's really extreme oversimplification, if that's a word.
100%.
Extreme. And there's so many things that are killing our biodiversity, our gut bacteria. So, probiotic capsules are like literally a drop in the ocean of bacterial diversity and bacterial species, and the quantity of bacteria that we have in our not only in our digestive tracts, but on our skin, mucous membranes, everywhere. We have bacteria that we are just walking bugs. And without these bugs, we can't maintain balance. And it's a very beautiful orchestra of competing bacteria to keep everything from, our tissues regenerating, preventing pathology and pathogens from infecting us on a daily basis, or whether it's in our lungs, or it's absolutely everywhere. So a simple little probiotic capsule, we could maybe get a little bit of temporary relief with it at the best, but it's not going to be a game changer, because as we talked about, I think, or you were just going to touch on all of the different ways we can kill off these bugs.
Mm-hmm. Well, and on top of that, I think that it's also not a short-term solution. You know what I mean? It's not like, oh, I took probiotics for like a month and now I'm good. Like if you are going to use them, you're going to use them for a while, you know?
That's right. That's
And
right.
like you just talked about, like they are very sensitive. So when you look at things that can kill the bugs, you know, our good bugs or our intestinal flora, you know, they're really, really sensitive. You know, I don't remember, maybe it was in college or whatever. You do the Petri dishes and it's like, oh, it grew on this agar, but not on this agar. You really learn on like how sensitive bacteria really can be. So when you look at things like the acidity of the environment that you're trying to grow it in, so if your stomach pH is messed up or the pH of your gut's messed up, you know, what your diet's made of, because if you're consistently eating like the same things over and over and over, that can actually limit your microbiome or the diversity in your microbiome. I've actually read a couple studies where people who have a more diverse palate or a diverse diet have improved and diverse microbiome compared to someone who eats like the same food consistently. Chemical exposure in our diet and our environment can affect them. You know, stress can affect them, whether that's like physical stress or emotional stress. All of it can wreak havoc on your microbiome. So, I mean, there's tons of them. We could go on and on. Age, you know.
Yeah. Even things like activity level play a big role. Medications are really nasty for most medications are designed to destroy bacteria, but the medication isn't specific to the good bacteria, the bad bacteria, the pathogenic
kills
bacteria.
all of them.
Yeah, it's just like a nuclear bomb, really. And that's what it looks like when you put an antibiotic in that Petri dish. It just eradicates everything. But the interesting thing about all these things that are killing our bacteria, and we were having a conversation about this, maybe we did it, I don't know, maybe we even talked about it, where there's, you know, there's different levels of bacterial diversity. And over the last 50, 80 years, the overall bacterial diversity of the entire world has been constantly being reduced. And there's different species. And out of the entire global population, the Americans have the lowest bacterial diversity in the entire planet.
So then that begs the question, why is it that Americans have the lowest like biodiversity? Well, I think that you look at our diet's terrible compared to like we don't have any diversity. We have a lot of processed foods compared to most of the world. And then
over sterilization is probably a massive one. I was just
going to say hygiene. Like, you know, everyone's constantly washing their hands. Everything's been sterilized stuff. And it's not that that's bad per se, but it is killing a lot of the bugs that you're being exposed to.
That's right. And our sterilization strategies are AKA sterilizing agents. They're not, nothing represents anything natural. A lot of them are using really, really amazing. I'll use the word amazing, potent ingredients that eradicates absolutely everything. Whether our body could survive with this certain strain of bacteria or not, it's killing everything. So it creates an ultra sterilization, and that's got to be probably part of it as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So probiotics and popularity of probiotics, we talked a little bit about that. But maybe let's making a case for probiotics, right? Maybe that's what it is. I know, and maybe if you can share your examples of how you use them. I still have some in my office. I still have, and there's different strains for different things. Not all strains are the same, of course, but I use them with the intention to either try to outcompete pathogenic bacteria, like in the cases of SIBO. We've done a podcast on SIBO, and then I'll also use them. Try because it's kind of like rolling the dice, of course. Try to use them to start re-inoculating. So trying to plant a seed, so hopefully we can start seeding the bacteria, at least in the form of antibiotic use and things like that.
Yeah, so I do similar. I don't use the same probiotics for everybody. In a lot of cases, I will actually do like a stool sample, and I will see what their microbiomes actually look like, or what their microbiome actually looks like. And then when you see what they're lacking or what they have too much of, then you can kind of tailor which probiotic you use based on the strain that they're needing, all that kind of stuff. And really what I kind of look at is what are their symptoms? What are their complaints? Are they having issues with their mood, energy? Are they depressed? What does it look like? Are they having issues with digestion? Then you can kind of tailor it a little bit. But like you said, I like that seed analogy. You're planting the seed so that hopefully that new bacteria will grow. but like I mentioned earlier, this isn't like you plant one seed and hope you get an orchard. You know what I mean? This is
Yeah,
like you plant lots of seed and hope that a quarter of them survive.
that's right.
Because
Because
not only,
everything is trying to kill them in our world. Nothing is
yeah,
promoting them.
yeah, and on top of that, you got to think that like your digestive system's pretty a pretty rough and abrasive place. So when you're ingesting something, like maybe a good portion of it's being killed off in transit before it even
That's
gets
right.
there. So
Stomach
you have
acid for sure.
you know, so you got to consider that as well. So I guess a lot of you have the question like, how do I know if I need one, or how do I know
Mhm.
if I'm taking the right one? Well, there's not really a good answer for that. I guess that my recommendation for you would be, if you're having these issues, like, issues with mood or energy levels or fatigue or digestion or whatever, would be go somewhere where they do routine testing like this. And then you can get your microbiome tested. They can do, a stool sample to check what your bacterial makeup is. And then you can apply the right probiotics with some guidance so that they can help you do that. Um, and then make sure you're taking like a good probiotic, because they're not all
Yeah,
created equal.
that's right. And we talked about this in a podcast of the quality of supplementation,
Mm-hmm.
certain standards. Mhm.
Well, and not only that, but you also got to consider too. I mean, this is kind of going a little bit off on a tangent that we probably don't need to, but there's certain things in probiotics that can even be like a prebiotic, right? So it's feeding the bacteria while they're in the capsule. You got to make sure that you can handle that. Is the amount of active cultures in the probiotic at the time of ingestion or encapsulation, that can be an issue. So you just really, it's kind of complicated. You want to make sure that you have some guidance.
Yeah, that's true. And ultimately, the goal, if someone's pursuing probiotics, they either have a digestive symptom or they have a digestive symptom. Or the third one is maybe they heard they were great and they
Yeah.
probably should take them because of they, I don't know, something. So maybe get past the great part first, just to take them just because they're great, and have a reasoning for it. And like you said, Dr. Kolby, it's nothing to get it tested and then to know. But there's other ways. So that ultimately, I guess, in our perspective, or we are established that maybe uh, the goal of this whole probiotics is to increase the health of the digestive tract, which is actually biodiversity. And we did a podcast on this exclusively, strategies for this. But probiotics are, maybe think of it as a seed, but by no means is the whole story. There are other ways to get these to increase bacterial diversity, because that's ultimately the goal.
Yes.
That probiotics promise, but they just can't deliver. It's just not in the nature. We talked about a few things like diet, and we talked about that in a podcast. I know research shows over and over and over again is if you have animals, pets, especially if you have the pets that can go in and out of the house. You want them to bring dirt in. You want them to bring in dirt. Environment plays a big role. How much chemical agents are in your environment? Do you live beside a golf course? Some interesting stuff with that. Beside a golf course, people have less biodiversity because there's more
Or
chemicals,
herbicides. Yeah.
more herbicides being spread. And I don't know about research in agriculture in general and bacterial diversity. I don't know. Maybe there's
That
too
would
many
be interesting to
variables in
look up.
that, right? Too many variables, right? The diet is probably different than urban centers, and then there's pollutants, other pollutants, and things like that. And then I don't know. This is kind of a touchy one, but doing your best to prevent over sterilization. Do you have any ideas on that? I know it seems so kind of almost controversial now.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially,
We're supposed to bathe in hand sanitizer.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think that, you want to make sure your hands are clean, but
Mhm.
I mean, if you're cutting up raw chicken, please wipe your surface down,
Yeah.
right? You probably don't
Wipe
want
them off on
salmonella.
a really good paper
Yeah.
towel.
Yeah. But I mean, my kids, for example, we are not like the clean freak parents. My daughter walks in and I'm like, all right, you got to wash your hands before you eat. But other than that, like, you're good to go. Yeah, I don't know. That's a tough question. Use your best. Use your discretion. How's that? Like, if
Mhm.
you're gonna eat, maybe wash your hands. Other than that,
That's right.
let it
Yeah,
ride.
I think
Maybe.
there's certain hygiene. I think there's a hyper sterilization model, and then there's it wasn't too long ago where I guess it was a few years back, maybe 5 years ago, it was just standard, sterilize everything, hand sanitizer everywhere. And then the research came out and it was like, whoa, you're compromising your entire, biome, not just your gut biome from sanitizer. So a surgeon general, more than once there were articles saying, no, you got to mitigate and reduce hand sanitization due to these hand sanitizers because it's causing all these problems. In fact, they were getting pulled out of hospital settings and waiting rooms. And then there's this big epidemic. So they're like, wow, I guess a pandemic. They're like, let's go back to it. So then now we're back into full hand sanitizer, everything. So,
well, and you got to think that you get a lot of bacteria from your hands, touching your face, eating, whatever it is, you get a ton there. So if you're consistently, like if you're not getting that exposure from the bacteria on your hands anymore, like you're going to potentially limit one of your vectors for moving the bacteria into your gut as well.
That's true. That's really true. And I think is kind of, I don't know, we like to think we're very intelligent humans, but I think our physiology and our DNA and our habitual patterns are embedded in we are programmed with these habitual patterns, and that's what made us thrive. And as much as we shouldn't be wiping our mouths, I wonder if caveman did that. I bet they did. Mm-hmm. I bet they did. So I like to believe, and I don't know, but I like to believe it's probably some evolutionary source on how we are able to enhance biodiversity.
Yeah. It wouldn't surprise me.
I don't know. If anybody has a study, send them my way.
Yeah, please. I'd love to read that.
Prove my guess.
So, well, I think that we beat that one up pretty good.
I think we did.
Anyone has questions on probiotics or anything that we covered today, you can get a hold of us at info@brainstormingwiththedocs.com. My website is northlakechiropractic.com. Dr. Glenn's website is drgharrison.com. And if you have other questions, stay tuned because you never know when we might cover that topic.
That's right. Well, that sounds good, Dr. Kolby.
Sounds good, bud. Till next time.
Bye-bye.